Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm JR. We're talking through the Sherrone Moore firing at Michigan. And I think one thing that's important to document kind of this stuff of what's going on here is to document how all of this stuff kind of happened. At least the rumors leading up to this point, all of this is still alleged. I've not seen Michigan come out and say all of this stuff happened with these details. However, Michigan did come out and say there was cause and say they did confirm it. So a lot of what you're going to hear in this is rumors, but this is also coming from Justin Spiro, who did a Spaces, and Spiro was the one that first started to break a lot of this news about Sherrone Moore. He started talking about how Sherrone Moore could get in trouble, could get fired by the university all the way back in August, before the season even started. I believe it was like midway through August, and so I would say Spiro, probably a guy that pretty well knows what's going on here. After the Ohio State game, he was the one that came out and said Sherrone Moore is most likely going to get fired in about a week and a half to 6 to 8 weeks. I think he talks about that later on, but I don't think we're going to listen all the way to that point. But anyway, basically, the story of the rumors and how it goes is that Sherrone Moore was fired because he was having sexual relations with his executive assistant to the head coach, Paige Shiver. Spiro will talk about Shiver in the thing, so when you hear him talk about her, that's who he is discussing. When he took over for Jim Harbaugh, Paige Shiver was given an elevated role to executive assistant of the head coach of Michigan football, which is not uncommon. You know, you have somebody on staff that you trust, you bring him up. You know, he's not just going to take whoever Jim Harbaugh had and make him his assistant. He could, but it's not uncommon for that to happen. So the story is basically that him and Paige were, having their relations and stuff, and now the way that all of this stuff kind of came out was that she's pregnant now, and they're able to confirm that it is from Sherrone Moore. Josh Pate has talked about this so I feel like there's enough credible people talking about this that it doesn't need to be something that we just completely back away from. Zach and I did a live stream about Sherrone Moore getting fired, but we tried to stick a lot to just Sherrone Moore getting fired. And the news of like him getting arrested broke as we were on stream, so we didn't really talk about it all that much. We'll get into more of that in this with Justin Spiro here. So let's talk through what went on. Listen to Spiro's space here. I'm going to go ahead because it is kind of long and just do 1.5 speed. If you would like to not listen to that, you can just go to 75 speed or whatever here on YouTube. So, all right, let's go ahead and listen to what Spiro has to say.
Was vindicated. I knew this was happening. Now, what is not foreseeable by me or anyone else, because I am not clairvoyant, is Sherrone Moore getting arrested in the aftermath of this. Now, this is the part that I'm working on. But I feel confident in reporting that the arrest has taken place. It's the details surrounding it. So I am told, reportedly, that some point in the close to, if not immediate wake of this termination, Sherrone Moore made his way over to his mistress's house and was in some state of despair, distraught, mix of anger, whatever. And the details are a little bit fuzzy on what exactly took place there, whether he threatened to kill himself or threatened to kill her or some combination of the both of the two. I don't know. I'm working on that. I'm hearing kind of both of those things, but I'll just say you're not going to get arrested just for showing up at someone's house invited and saying hello. So
I do think it needs to be said that with all this stuff going on with Sherrone Moore, I completely understand people are going to have rivalry banter and everything like that. But at the same time, like Sherrone Moore is a person, and it's very clear that he is going through a lot right now. And I understand there's not going to be much sympathy for the guy that cheated, the guy that defaced the name of Michigan. If you're a Michigan fan listening to this, you probably are not happy with Sherrone Moore at all. I'm sure nobody really is at this point, but I do think we also need to recognize that Sherrone Moore is a human, and he's going through a lot here. Stuff that he created in his own doing. But this is, if any of this is true about him threatening his life, threatening Paige Shiver's life, or anything, or whoever he was with, if Paige Shiver wasn't even the one that he was with, that it was with somebody else. That's incredibly sad, and we need to be praying for the people going through this kind of stuff. All right, let's keep listening.
I'm working on that, but the fact that Sherrone Moore was arrested for any reason at all is an absolute batshit crazy story that is true for whatever reason. And the fact that he was over at Paige Shiver, his mistress's house after this, for whatever, any reason under the sun, it doesn't matter, is nuts. That's crazy. It's just, I've known about all this stuff for several months. Didn't see that one coming. So Michigan has a
and that leads us more to the entire story, right? That like Sherrone Moore, he had to have at some point knew what was going to happen here, unless something just completely set him off. And who knows? Maybe, who knows what exactly is going on in Sherrone Moore's mind right now? Unless something just completely set him off, he had to have known this was coming, right? I mean, Josh Pate said that this was known by Michigan for the past, 2 to 3 weeks. They just didn't have any concrete evidence on it. I don't want to speak completely for Josh Pate. Go listen to Josh Pate yourself. He has an episode out about it. But essentially saying like this is not something that just blew up tonight, and nobody knew it was going to happen. Nobody knew at Michigan. Nobody, Sherrone Moore didn't know. For him to go over to his mistress's house to threaten his livelihood, her life, or anything. Obviously, it wasn't good. Like Spiro said, you don't get arrested just for stopping at the front door and saying hello. It's honestly crazy. All right, keep listening.
mess on their hands here. And a component I reported today, there's an element here with Sherrone's Michigan behavior that is completely separate from all of this stuff with his direct subordinate staffer. He has multiple correspondences that Michigan is aware of, and some of which I'm sure they're not, with women that are having unwanted advances made on them. And it's usually from two of them I've seen. So I've seen personally. So I believe the ones that I haven't seen, I believe.
Now, I've not heard that. I've not heard that the advances made on the women were unwanted. Now, maybe Spiro is speaking about other women that we are not aware of. But if the advances made on Shiver were unwanted, that makes this even stranger and crazier. Okay, we'll keep listening.
The women, because the MO is exactly the same in the ones that I have seen. But for the most part, it's the same kind of, whether you use the term grooming or I don't care what term you use. It's not like right out of the gate sending a nude or anything like that. It's like this kind of slow roll into a dinner invitation. And this was a very Mel Tucker like move where he'd be like on a recruiting trip. Some people alleged he would go on a recruiting trip, quote unquote, just to have an excuse to use the private jet and have his hotel paid for and all that stuff. And the main reason he would be in this whatever state he was going to was to meet a woman, but that's a different story for a different day. But Sherrone was trying to meet up with women for various liaisons. And I mean, even things that anybody could go and see for themselves. Like Sherrone follows, for example, a pornographic OnlyFans model. That is the least of his problems, but I would argue that it's probably not a great look for the head coach of the University of Michigan football program to be following a porn account and an OnlyFans account. Like not a model, like an actual like porn OnlyFans account, like link and all.
Okay, this is where the story does not just reflect on Sherrone Moore, but this story reflects on Michigan and really, really puts everything into question about this Michigan program, and honestly should make all of us question Warde Manuel and why he is the one in charge of anything at Michigan, why he has any responsibility. I've seen the pictures myself of Sherrone Moore's, who he follows on Instagram, and yes, there are some, like OnlyFans accounts and stuff like that there. If he was following those for a while, like for a long, like people were giving Sherrone Moore crap about well, I don't want to go there, but if he was even following those accounts, I'm not saying that's fireable, but I am saying like Warde Manuel and the people at Michigan need to do a whole lot better deep diving into who they're hiring, not just to be on staff, but who they're hiring to essentially be the face of the university. And that with a program, with a school as big as Michigan, that is essentially the face of your university in a lot of ways. Now, Dusty May, he obviously big face out there as not big face. He's a recognizable face out there as well. But football gets so much attention, so much credit. You can't have the face of your university be out here following porn accounts and OnlyFans models. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? If I'm a Michigan fan, which I'm not, I mean, I clearly have an Ohio State hat back there. You cannot allow this to go on. You cannot allow Warde Manuel to continue. And the worst part is this isn't even like the worst of it all, right? Alex Yude, I think Spiro talks about him a little bit later on. Alex Yude was caught trying to have relations with, trying to essentially pick up, and who knows with relations or not, trying to pick up an underage girl at like a Walmart, right? They tried to hire the one like MAGA right guy who had all the likes and all the tweets about all the the far crazy stuff. I'm not saying people on the right are crazy or anything, but just some pretty crazy stuff out there. I'm not trying to get political, but some pretty crazy stuff out there. And they didn't even do their homework to know that was going on. So, I mean, regardless if you're a Michigan fan or not, you cannot trust this university. You cannot trust their leadership right now. And honestly, I I wouldn't trust who they hire next because they're still the ones in charge and they obviously don't do their homework. Right? All right, let's keep listening.
And there's multiple of these sort of kind of flimsy, accounts like that, many, many that he followed. And I don't know if he's gone private. I haven't checked recently. I know he didn't right away, or if he's done anything with his accounts, in the last few minutes. But if he has, I've got evidence, documentation of these women that he's following. And it's like, this is, again, the least of his problems. But I'm telling you, whether you think it's a big deal or not, Michigan didn't like that. And that was a part of this whole thing. And, when I was talking about this way back in August, and man,
Michigan didn't like that. Well, no duh, they didn't like that. I'm not saying no duh to Spiro. I'm saying why did you allow it? Why did I mean? I guess you can't tell somebody who they can and can't follow, but you can at least say, hey man, go private. Don't let everybody see who you follow. I mean, you shouldn't eat anyway. I guess you shouldn't. But still, you shouldn't let everybody see, right? Like, all right, let's listen.
that'd be a fun thread to pull up. I should get to it before everyone deletes their replies, where I said that there were multiple examples of this type of behavior, and it was presenting multiple issues and was threatening his future at Michigan and really in college athletics. I mean, I was mocked for that. Mocked. It's all true. And what I reported, say, like, thank you. Yes, I was within a couple hours of reporting that his firing was imminent, because that's what I was told. But with all the details I later reported, and the ESPN report, Schefter, or whoever, Wetzel, comes out with it, all that. They didn't have any of the details right away. I don't think they've still discussed the details yet. But those will all come out. And, there's a lot of stuff I don't even know. There were multiple women that would not speak to me that I know had correspondences with him through reliable secondhand, I should say I'm fairly certain, had, credible reports of these exchanges. One of these women was like legitimately heartbroken and thought like Sherrone was in love with her, and they were in love, which is like the most common dime a dozen mistress story ever, where it's like, oh yeah, he's going to leave his wife for me. He's in love with me. Blah. It's like, and she found out after talking to another woman that he had a correspondence with, she then realized she wasn't the only one other than his wife that he's talking to in this way, and was like legitimately heartbroken. So like all this stuff is kind of out there, and none of that is why he was fired technically. It's all tied to what I reported with this inappropriate relationship with the staffer. But I'm telling you, it was not the only consideration, and it was not the only clear violation of a moral turpitude clause. This is not a guy who, went down a bad path with a woman that he maybe had genuine feelings for. This is a guy that was trying to sleep with every skinny blonde woman he could find. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. When you have these multiple exchanges, they all fit the same type of prototype, or at least all the ones I've seen. I mean, maybe there's a few exceptions, but he certainly seems to have a type. And, I laid out this timeline. I appeared on Buckeye Scoop, I don't know, 7-10 days ago. I have to pull that tape. And I said he's on two different timelines where he could be gone. One could be within a week or so. Another one would be within 6 to 8 weeks. Well, I was right. It was on the front end of that timeline. And the reason is there were multiple components of the investigation, one of which is involving more so the staffer, and the other one has a little bit of an overlap with the staffer, but also is more predicated on this other concerning behavior alleged with other women. So I nailed all of this, and it's not because I'm clairvoyant. It's because,
I mean, if it's true that Michigan knew about this and they were debating on like, well, do we want to fire him before bowl season or after bowl season and after the transfer portal? And I don't know if that's what Spiro's getting at there by saying that, but it sounds like it. If that's true, again, why does anybody who is in charge at Michigan's athletic department still have a job? Why is that still going on? Ridiculous.
I know what I'm doing, and people should really start reconsidering what they say and do in response to my reports, because it's just another example of me just rubbing their face in shit. I mean, Sam Webb, Chris Ballas, where are you? Like, seriously. I mean, these people, like Chris Ballas is telling people a week, 10 days ago or so, don't listen to that guy. He's a nut. Sam Webb addressing me, but not by name, saying there's a salacious rumor. It's not true. But it's like, where are those apologies? I'm not going to hold my breath on those. But once again, the Michigan beat is demolished by a Michigan State alum, Ryan Day's #1 fan, who's doing this in his free time. So I don't know if that's really
okay. I think we're just getting into like I was right, they were wrong part here. We'll listen in for another minute or two, but I think that's all we're getting here. So we'll finish off just to make sure.
impressive on my part or really embarrassing for them. But it's got to be one or the other. I'm happy to just put it on them being really bad than on me being good. But I'm telling you, when I report something, I don't report what I don't know. And if I don't know something, I won't tell you. I would love to report all the details I'm hearing coming out about Sherrone Moore's arrest and all that, but I don't have that firm yet. I can tell tell you what I'm hearing, the conflicting sides of it, I can report that there was an arrest. So this is how we work through these things. But it's an embarrassment for the University of Michigan. It's their 7th staffer arrested since Jim Harbaugh arrived. 8 if you include Alex Ude, who was not arrested but was caught on tape trying to meet a child for sex at Walmart. It does not include Shemi Schembechler, who was immediately forced to resign after being caught advocating for slavery and Jim Crow laws and saying
That's who it was. Shimmy Schembechler. That's right.
that slavery and Jim Crow laws were a good thing for black people. That's not even a defensible take in MAGA, like crazy far right stuff. I mean, that's nobody endorses that. So this is the institution you're dealing with. And people can make up a divorce or make up me going bankrupt or show up at my house or Photoshop pictures of me. They can do all that stuff. I'm right again, and I'll be right next time and the next.
Okay. All right. So that's Spiro. If you want to go listen to the whole thing, there's still 10 minutes left, and there were 2 minutes at the beginning when he was kind of talking about stuff. He did tweet out up here. Staffers arrested since Harbaugh was hired. Former player Denard Robinson, DUI, a lot of DUIs here. Steve Clinkscale, Matt Weiss, yeah, that's weird. Greg Scruggs, Fergus Colony Hospital staff. I didn't even realize that one. Jim Minnick, and now Sherrone Moore. And yeah, that doesn't even include Alex Ude and everything. So Zach and I talked about how Michigan needs to make a hire with somebody who's clean. Don't think you can hire Brian Kelly with his past and the kid on the the band thing, whatever it's called. I don't want to think about that. I hate that story. Just because it's so sad. But there's that. I don't think you can hire Brian Kelly because of that. Sounds like Kalen DeBoer is, a big name right now, but he's still in the playoffs. So how's that going to work? Really, I know Michigan is an attractive job because it's a huge university, it's a huge brand, a lot of money that they're going to be able to throw around at recruits and everything else. But at this point, like everything that Michigan has going on right now, their leadership, everything else, it's just not an attractive place at the moment. So that's kind of what went on with Sherrone Moore, the arrest, how he got fired, the rumors, the allegations of it all. Who knows if we'll ever get Michigan to come out and say anything? I don't think we will. We'll see if Paige Shiver still continues to work for Michigan, how that's all going to work out. I doubt she will, but yeah, crazy stuff. I do want to say before I get off, though, I am thankful that Biff Poggi is going to be the interim head coach because I honestly do believe that Biff Poggi is a good person. I do believe that Biff Poggi has a fan in me. And the fact that for all these students, all these athletes, all the, unfortunately the family of Sherrone Moore that's being impacted and affected by this, they're going through a lot. And it's not their fault. Sherrone Moore's fault. And thankfully, Biff Poggi, I think, is somebody who is not at Michigan for money. He's not there for prestige. He's there because he does feel a special connection to there. Whether that connection is right now with what he needs to be for the students, for the athletes, for the people that he's impacting, maybe. But at the end of the day, that's why a lot of these guys get into coaching. Yeah, millions of dollars, national championships, all that stuff. But most guys truly do get into coaching at the beginning to impact young men, at least in football. And I truly do think Biff Poggi's trying to do that. And I personally will be praying for Biff Poggi. I personally will be praying for the Michigan athletes. And I will personally be praying for Sherrone Moore's family. I hope that they get everything they need, that they are supported, and that they find peace in what's going on. Not that it's right to be going on, but they can find some peace in their lives. So thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Appreciate it. Have a good one.